Welcome to Fandom Schmandom, the fandom podcast that covers everything you love and more. I'm Sierra Obermark.
And I'm Sam Williams. Today's episode, we will be ordinarily orating about Stranger Things Season 5, Episode 8. Spoiler warning, we will be talking about everything to do with Stranger Things. That includes all 4 previous seasons, the play, and now all of Season 5. Keep your finger on the pause button and rewind that tape. It's the prestige category. What did we notice on this watch through? Well, Sierra, this is a tale of 2 episodes in one. We had one section which I'm calling the final fight, and the other section, the 45-minute long epilogue. In a quick sort of summary of how I felt about these 2 episodes, I loved the epilogue, and I didn't like the final fight.
Fair.
The potential of what they set up for the 4 seasons, but also I think digging a hole kind of in the media of just like, we're going to answer all your questions. You guys are going to be, desolate. It's going to be super sad. Everything's going to be emotional and everything of that nature. We just didn't reach that level of craziness. Sort of telling your audience, analyze everything. Well, I think a lot of fan theories ended up being more crazy. I won't say more creative or anything of that nature, but more crazy.
And in-depth. And really focusing on those details that they told us to focus on.
Right. Totally. And so by the end of that, like the first hour of the show, I was underwhelmed. And then I was like, oh, good. This epilogue's perfect for this TV show. Like, it's not perfect in terms of writing. Nothing really is. But I was like, this is a great send-off for the last 40 minutes of an epilogue. That was my overall reaction. What about you?
I mostly agree. I don't know that I loved the epilogue. I wasn't mad about it. There was just, in general, a letdown for me, both in that final fight section and then also with the epilogue.
Yeah.
It just felt a little lackluster. And it could have been that my experience of watching the epilogue was slightly soured by the fact that it didn't feel earned based on the first half of the episode. So the first half of the episode kind of left me with this lackluster kind of, feeling.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get to the epilogue, I'm going, oh, so they're just going to wrap everything up and give everybody a nice little bow. And here's what they're doing. And kind of one of those, almost a throwback to, 80s movies with, and then he became the president. And then he became a criminal. Oh, and then he went on to build a baseball team.
Yeah.
And it just felt a little like, what's this person up to? Check. What's this person up to? Check.
Yeah. I, as you know, was traveling during New Year's. And so I ended up watching this in 3 distinct parts. I watched all the way up through Vecna fight and killing Vecna, and then I paused right when Dustin is telling Hopper, we've got the kids, we're back. Everyone's good. Then I had to pause. So I didn't know what happened to Elle and Dr. K. Although I will say, what I texted you as my prediction was eerily close.
Pretty close.
Pretty right on. I mean, obviously at that point I had abandoned all hope of Dr. K might be good. Clearly super wrong on that. Not triumphant whatsoever. And then I watched that section, which is about 10 minutes. And then I watched all the epilogue when I got home. So I had a couple of days to sit with just the final fight, which may explain why the epilogue sits a lot better with me. Because I watched that entirely separately. It was almost as if these were 2 distinct episodes. Which I'm like, the epilogue does a nice job of sort of tying everything in a bow. Now, I really like when they go through with each of the characters. Less so with the dubes, as we call them, the older teens. More so with the Scoobs and more so with Hopper and Joyce. But I still really like that. It's very reminiscent of Parks and Rec's series finale, where Leslie Knope goes through to each person, and when she touches them, it shows the future of what they're doing, which I think is one of the most perfect finales I've ever seen. Versus the first half, the fight, definitely felt more like Lost or Game of Thrones, where I just kind of felt there being like, I feel hollow. Like, everything that I feel like this could have been is just really not there. Mm-hmm. With the exception of some small twists that we'll talk about as we move forward. So
yeah, I think that might have had a determining factor is your gap between the two. Because I can see that if I had had space to sit with the first part, then the second part might feel a little bit lighter and a little bit better because it's not coming right off of, oh, well, that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. And then now all of a sudden, here we are trying to wrap everything up, but I don't feel wrapped up from what I just watched. So yeah, I think that was my biggest issue.
I think that's really fair. I think the epilogue did a nice job of wrapping up all 5 seasons, but the finale did a bad job of wrapping up season 5. I
would agree.
And like,
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
I think that, oh, hey, this, there's a lot of talk about like, well, I will admit, Sierra, I grow very tired of online discourse of many things in life, specifically because there's just the polarizing effect of being online, the polarizing effect of not having media literacy or storytelling literacy or understanding of subtext or any of this sort of stuff. That in general, what you and I run into on a daily discourse online, we see. So there's just a lot of polarizing around like, this is the best finale ever. And this is the worst thing ever. So
it's definitely not the worst.
Right. So I genuinely believe that I subscribe to the idea that Game of Thrones finale was bad. I subscribe to the idea that Lost's finale was bad. This isn't anywhere close to that. This also, I happen to love The Sopranos finale, and I love Parks and Rec finale. This isn't anywhere close to that. And it's okay to be like, yeah, so there was some good and some bad on this, and we'll go over both. So let's just move in straight into it. The final fight. I found this section plain and straightforward.
It was quite boring considering everything that we've gone through to get here. And okay, we finally reached Dimension X and here's this new place that we didn't know existed until 2 episodes ago. And now this is where the kids are being kept and we're going to have to go to this whole fight. And we spend 2 minutes in Dimension X before this where Holly's just running away. And then we have no real time to sit in this new world to have any knowledge about it or any additional information. We spend so much time in the Upside Down and then it's like, haha, but that wasn't really the other dimension at all. It's this one. And then you go, okay, so tell me more about this one. And then they go, no.
I think one of the main things that's my problem with this section of it, which is really the conclusion of the big mystery.
The story.
Right, the story. The main, like, every time that you and I have been like, so why is this part important other than the fact that it's the main story? This is the main story. And exactly. It wraps up Barb and Bob and Billy and Betty and Brenner and everybody, right? It wraps up all of their deaths. It wraps up the mystery. And a caveat here, it is really easy to set up a convincing mystery as compared to finishing a convincing mystery. Like, you can throw a lot of things in there that throws people for a loop while you're building a mystery, but to finalize it is really difficult. And so I like give that caveat because I understand that this is a difficult task that they set up for themselves. The problem is that they've given so many twists and turns and there's been so many theories about what's going on and what's happening that to be this plain and straightforward where it's like, yep, go for Vecna, kill Mind Flayer body, there's nothing else happening, as compared to everything, the sort of conspiracy that's been built up in this show. That's what's lackluster to me. That's where I go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much, there's, one kind of moment where you fear for people's lives, but overall, I wasn't afraid for any of them.
Including Steve.
In that whole fight. Well, the one moment was the tower. When Jonathan catches him, my heart did stop for a hot second. I was like, no, they're not going to. No.
See,
no,
I was so convinced that they weren't going to, that my heart did not. I was like, they're not going to kill him off like this.
Well, but the way that they have it, and then they kind of have the break, and you're going, wait, but no, they wouldn't kill Steve. But at the same time, there was just enough space where you're like, no one can grab him.
See, I was more concerned for Nancy when she turns her head away from the mouth of the Mind Flayer than I was for Steve during that. It just felt like that would be such a inauthentic and not satisfying way for Steve to go. Oh, the tower crashes into the upcoming whole planet that's falling on them, and Steve falls off of it. And that just never registered to me as like, this is realistic. And so at no point was I really afraid for anybody's death.
Well, yeah. I mean, and after that one moment where I was like, no, they're not going to do it. And then they didn't. There didn't feel like there was stakes really. Like they're fighting this thing, but you go, okay, but like at this point, they're all fighting it. It feels very much like the Mind Flayer fight from the mall.
that is
it's
my
like
point.
A repeat.
That is my point precisely. It's end of season 3 meets end of season 4 meets season 5 mid-season finale, because you've got Elle and Vecna facing off just like you do at the end of season 4, except this time it's in a physical location. You've got the entire mall fight of season 3 where instead of being up on a second floor of a mall, they're just up on some cliffs.
Yeah.
And then you've got Will hive minding in to, like he did at the end of season 5's mid-season finale. Yeah. For a second to like break an arm off and talk to Vecna for a minute. But like when they're in Dimension X, my wife, the scientist, went, how do they know they're going to breathe air? How do we know that fire works there? That it's the same level of oxygen? Shouldn't it be really cold because he likes it cold?
Yeah.
Also, why is there so much sun when the sun burns away the Mind Flayer? And like, just all of these, it's very Star Trek. They like show up on a planet and they're like, look, it's an M-class planet. And that just means to the audience that its oxygen levels are fine and the radiation levels are fine and everything. Like, I'm glad that they didn't fast forward and just like everybody dies of cancer at the age of 30. But like, why is this dimension so convenient?
Yeah, the only thing that I can think of with how do they know that they're going to be able to breathe and how do they know that fire works? I mean, I guess if you can breathe the air, then fire is going to work because both require oxygen. So the only reason you would know that is because that's where Vecna and kids are currently. Therefore, there must be air.
But
because Vecna is human.
Here's one of the things that I questioned, which was the Mind Flayer has to eat certain amount of chemicals in fertilizer or rat poison or something in season 3. Right. I forget off the top of my head, in order to constitute a physical form.
Yeah.
Why is it not the opposite? Like, I understood that Vecna kind of looks crazy and maybe has constituted a physical form in Dimension X, and that the kids are being pumped full of those chemicals, and Will was being pumped full of those chemicals. So I guess they're just there for a light amount of time. Which again speaks to our whole like we didn't like think at all about Dimension X. We're just there.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing as how, you know, they go into the Upside Down and they're all wearing hazmat suits and Hopper's getting hosed down, and then for the rest of the show they're just waltzing in there whenever they feel like it.
Is this stuff safe to breathe?
It's probably fine.
It's probably fine.
It's probably fine.
My goodness gracious. Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of something that both you and I legitimately loathed about this episode, not just had questions around, not just felt kind of strange about or hollow about, but actually genuinely loathed, was the lack of there being a Callie twist. Now, caveat, there is a Callie twist, maybe sort of kind of, in the epilogue, but we'll get there when we get there. We talked a lot about Callie's working for the Mind Flayer, or Callie's working for Vecna, or something's really off with Callie, and there wasn't.
There was just nothing. I will say, there was even the potential in the episode for it to be Callie. When Hopper is seeing visions, 100% at first thought it was Callie.
That was my thought, too.
Callie had turned, and I was going, oh, this is so good, because she's just sitting over there in the other room.
Yeah.
So she can do something else. Elle's the one in the tank. She doesn't have to be in a tank. And I was going, oh, she's messing with him. This is going to be her. And then Vecna started talking, and I was like, okay, but is she doing it? And then Vecna is just like piggybacking on her little illusion, and then it just straight up wasn't.
Yes,
at all.
Which was probably the most disappointed I felt through all of Stranger Things. Was that moment, and it was being Vecna.
Yes. And it didn't even have... I thought that the whole hallucination of Hopper was very well done.
Super cool. Super good.
I thought it was very cool. I thought that the things that he was seeing were very impactful. I think that Vecna, although it was Vecna, but he was really pinpointing those things that would get Hopper to do what he wanted, and he manipulated him very well.
Yeah.
It was excellent. From a villain standpoint, like a very good plan. But what was really bothersome is, first of all, that it just was Vecna. But then also, there was no payoff of it being Vecna doing this to Hopper, knowing their previous connection.
Right.
So knowing that they went to high school together and they were in the play together, and all the things that you hear about in the play, there was no real connection. Like, I think at some point he calls him Junior. So, like, Hopper kind of can make the connection that, oh, this is, I know him.
That's the only...
And then nothing.
That's the only reference to the fact that Hopper and Joyce legitimately knew Vecna, which in the play, it's a big deal that Hopper and Joyce are investigating the Creel household, that they have information about what happened in 1959. And instead of exploring any of that, we get a little bit of Junior, because Jim Hopper Jr. His dad was the chief of police and the senior. And that's it. We got nothing else. And it was just sort of like, okay, why did I end up watching this play if that none of that information for Joyce and Hopper were going to turn up? And they also changed the equipment that goes missing to something completely different. What's in the briefcase isn't advanced military stuff. It's just a rock that has AOL Instant Messenger to the Mind Flayer in it. Find me. Okay.
Yeah. It seemed very odd. And it is something that we were worried about, is that they were going to start retconning the play. And at first it seemed like they weren't going to. They had, you're going into his mind and you see Joyce and you see the flyer for the play. And then I thought it was pretty hilarious, Max walking them back through.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
going,
Wheeler's filling up Mrs. Wheeler in that room right there. That sort of stuff.
In that room
really
right
funny.
there. And Hopper's over there like smoking or something. And it was like just the rundown of where everybody was. But we don't have time for that. I thought that was pretty clever. But then again, it just had no real payoff of pulling all that information in.
I realized I could have used a whole season, a little bit more stretch, another episode of them leading up to this information with the Abyss and Dimension X and then the Upside Down. And then I could have used 4 episodes, if not a whole nother season, of them exploring the play within the play, Joyce's whole play and Hopper and everything, plus the whole fight and any twist that they could have put in there.
I definitely think the fight needed a full, maybe not a full 2 hours just on the fight, but the lead up and the chase to get to the big fight, and then the fight, and then a resolution. I could have used a lot more time sitting with that. And then also, I do think it would have been very interesting if there was an entire episode dedicated to them going through Henry's memories.
Yeah, certainly. That could have been a cool penultimate. Yeah, that could have been a very cool penultimate episode of just learning even more about Vecna, and that could have made the neat little payoff even more of a payoff, which I think both of us felt pretty good about okay, so it was the Mind Flayer all along. Henry gets to face that right there.
Right.
And then with Will explaining like, look, you were just like us. You were just a kid. And Henry being too far gone. Not even able to think about his, because I really don't think he's actually saying, oh no, it was me and it all along. I really think he's justifying to himself that this was the right place to be, that he's convincing himself, inauthentically convincing himself that it was the Mind Flayer in him the whole time, and therefore he is irredeemable, and therefore you can actually move forward and kill him. I thought that was a neat little twist on what everybody's been saying, that it's the Mind Flayer all along, and it was very satisfying to me. That was the one part of the finale that I swung the opposite way from, like, Callie's weird storyline.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it was very interesting to not have Henry turn on the Mind Flayer and to have him continue to make a conscious choice that, nope, this is exactly, I agree with this. This is what's happening now. And I don't even think that in that moment he had to like re-justify it to himself. I think he's just like, nah, I've been making these choices. And yeah, maybe I was a kid, but he made some solid points. So here we are. And just really accept it. And I like that it gave him the autonomy in that scene. Not that he's been a pawn this whole time or anything. And I think it's definitely refreshing to see that, especially where almost everything you're trying to redeem the villain and you're trying to find, well, they're still human under there. And this is really like, he has abandoned his humanity. Well, and he has chosen to side against humanity, and he's fine with that.
Totally.
And I think that that's really interesting.
And that reveal, and then showing that, hey, by the way, this spiky building that he's in with the heart right above him is the physical manifest of the Mind Flayer, and here it comes in this giant corporeal form, is such a fulfilling moment. And then the fight was so lacking. It was so empty. Like, even the space that they were fighting in was fairly
boring.
Empty and boring. And so you just sort of have this empty fight with no real emotional stakes from that moment forward. And that, I think, is what left you and I with that hollow feeling.
Yeah. But what didn't leave us with a hollow feeling was the epilogue.
Yeah. Which the Duffer Brothers said, we're going to answer all your questions. And then it came out later that they're going to have this live action spinoff that's going to explore a little bit of like what the weird pulsating stone with the direct connection to the Mind Flayer's mind is going to be. It's like, oh, okay, so you're not answering all of our questions. And so the epilogue doesn't really answer any questions. It just settles character stories.
Right.
But it did that pretty well. I really loved the conformity. This is a Dune reference for anybody that doesn't know it. Conformity is the mind killer. It's basically the Duffer Brothers' whole thing, which is like,
yeah.
And Dustin's whole message is the Duffer Brothers sort of speaking directly through Dustin to tell you what the theme of the show is, which is let's all learn that we're not so different and to mix in with one another because you might find people that you love. And I loved that. And it was weirdly first explored with the whole Troy's serial killer storyline in season 1. And then, of course, when Lucas talks to Jason and he's like, now I realize being normal is psychotic. And then we get Dustin's speech. And I love it. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I thought that was really good and a nice way to get their message across without... A lot of times in shows when they have a specific message that they're trying to... They kind of hit you over the head with it over and over and over again. Yeah. And I feel like they just kind of sprinkled it in here and there. And then they wrap it all up in a form of a speech that does not sound out of place at a graduation. And I think that they did a very good job of weaving it into the story without making it blatantly obvious that this is what they were going for.
And Hellfire Lives, which was great.
Yes.
And you saw when Hellfire Lives was, revealed, a bunch of people both in the audience and in the crowd rose up and clapped, which means Dustin is doing what Eddie asked him to do, is to look after his sheep. Which I love. I just love it.
Yes. I do love, that he said he's going to flip off the principal, snatch that diploma. And run off the stage, and that's exactly what Dustin does.
That was really cool. You and I disagree a little bit on this one. I really loved what they did with Nancy, Jonathan, Robin, and Steve. I believe that they are going to have their monthly dinner because the writers told me so. So,
are you a real adult? Are you sure?
You know, they made some really big promises to each other, and I do think if they all stay on the East Coast, that, yeah, they'll be doing that.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. As someone who has lived within 5 hours driving of multiple best friends for 5 years now, I've seen one of them twice and one of them 0 times. And we made lots of promises.
You also didn't save the world with them, though, as far as I know.
This is true. This is very true. But I feel like that would almost make it worse.
I feel like with the fact that nobody died, nobody of any real consequence died in this show, that it is not entirely unrealistic that in this fictional world, these characters do all meet together.
Yeah. I think it's just... it's just kind of fairly unrealistic that they're going to monthly meet, despite
monthly is crazy.
Friends,
quarterly maybe.
Yeah, once a year, sure. A yearly trip back to Hawkins, a yearly trip to whichever city. They're just going to trade off wherever they all are. I can believe that, but monthly is insane.
I did feel a little bit for Steve when he was like, "You guys really don't miss any of this, like." The family video that I worked with you, Robin, any of the things that we did together. And they're all like, no. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I also, I love Bow, New Hampshire, but I will probably never move back there. I get it. But I also was like, nah, Steve.
Yeah. He's so funny.
He just wants to hang out with them.
Yeah. He just wants to hang out. He likes his little life. And he's like, what? Everything's great. Why'd you have to leave?
Yeah, for real.
There's other stuff out there?
Nah. I love what they did with Joyce and Hopper.
Yes.
Finally having that date at Enzo's. But also, Hopper, what took you so long? Seriously? Another 18 months? First of all, it's already been 18 months since you got back from Russia. So you're telling me we're near 3 years and you haven't proposed to Joyce yet? What's been keeping you back?
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Especially considering when Hop is posing in the graduation photo with Will as his dad, basically. That is how you take you have your parents on either side. And that's the graduation photo for people who have two parents. That's what it looks like. You don't have them on the side. You don't have the kids in the middle. Mm-hmm. So it was very cliche. This is a graduation photo of the family. And then I was like, oh, they're already married. That made me think that they were already married is them taking that picture. Totally. And so the fact that he hadn't even proposed yet, I was like, wait, what? Literally, because after seeing them take that picture, I kept looking for a ring.
Yeah.
On both of their hands. I was like,
no.
Then I would get distracted and then I'd forget to look for the ring because I was focused on all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But then he proposed and I go, oh, well, then there's definitely no ring.
I guess there's no ring. For those of you who have been listening to this podcast, you know that Bob Newby, a.k.a. Samwise Gamgee, has a stepsister that is Henry Creel's love interest in the play. The singing at the end, the singer, so to speak, is kind of a shout out to Patty Newby, where Patty Newby is a good singer, but her mother is like a traveling singer and is also African American. And so that's a little bit of a shout out right at the end, although we never ever see Patty Newby, which bummed me out a lot. But anyways, I thought that was a little cool, and Enzo's there to have Patty Newby's shout out, kind of, maybe.
A little bit.
I also really loved the final scene with, and I think, it's not surprising, but it's satisfying to have them end on a D&D play session where Max is finally the Zoomer and has her own special little a binder, and Will has his own binder, and they say their names on the side, and then they win their campaign with a little shout out to Elle there. And also then he does this little Parks and Rec run through where we get to see that Lucas and Max stay together forever, We get to see that Dustin goes on to be super bright, but his friendship with Steve is also maintained. We get to see Will lives a comfortable life where he's accepted. And we get to see Mike pursue his, dreams of being an author and a storyteller, just like he's always been, which was really cool. I really loved all of that. But I really loved when Mike is leaving and Holly and Derek and crew come downstairs and start playing. This idea that this will never really end and that the stories will go on and play will keep happening. As an adult who, is doing this with you, which is a form of play, that was the one thing that gave me a little tear jerk.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them running down, and I almost half expected Mike to kind of walk down there and maybe like start explaining it, and then it would kind of like the sound would fade out as he starts explaining or something like that.
Kind of like what Samwise Gamgee does at the end with his daughter when he's just like, "We're finally home," and it's just like it's at least a line from one of the main characters.
So I thought it would be kind of nice if that were to happen, but I did enjoy him just kind of watching and going, okay, this will live on and it's all right. And also I think there's just that bit of relief from Mike that they were able to get Holly home safely, and she has started making friends that she wouldn't have had otherwise, like Derek as well, kind of like Mike had found Elle, and they'd formed these odd friendships.
Dustin and
so
Steve.
Holly did that too.
Lucas and Max.
Right.
Well, I mean, so at the end of this, I think the finale is pretty good for the season. But there were still many questions that we had.
So many questions.
So many questions. So on to our next segment, questions. Questions that need answering. Now, I just got a list of questions that either frustrating to me or I'm being pedantic about or are actual questions. First and foremost, Karen Wheeler's scars disappear. Why? In Graduation, she got big old scars, and then like 4 hours later, she's got no scars.
Yeah. Continuity error is
and I get
a
that.
Nitpick on that one. I do remember, I think I missed noticing that when she's calling them up, because I do remember at the Graduation having a very clear thought of, I'm so glad they left those.
Yeah.
And they didn't just write it out and, oh, she's perfectly fine. Because I think that it shows her strength. It shows her character growth. It shows, because she was, just think about back with all the Billy stuff. It was all about how she looked.
Yeah.
And her physical appearance. And that was a big thing. And so her wearing these scars proudly, like she has an open shirt or dress that shows
to show
the
chest scars
on
too.
her. Yeah, exactly. Not just her neck, but also her chest, and really just not shying away from that. Yeah. And I thought that was very good.
I thought that was so cool, and really did, without telling you, it showed you how much she's changed. At the same time, I mainly bring this up just because I think it's indicative of a little problem that I have with Stranger Things overall, which is like continuity. There are just a couple of things that, for a show that is based on picking things apart in order to try and figure things out, which is part of the fun of a mystery show, continuity errors like Will Byers' birthday being March 11th and them being at spring break on March 11th. Not a huge deal like this, but just a little bothersome.
Yeah. Nancy and Jonathan being up to their knees in the solidifying goop and then having clean legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
not
minute
great.
later. No.
Not great at all. So Max graduates after 18 months in the hospital. Question, how?
No.
No, indeed.
She doesn't. I mean, I had friends and acquaintances in high school who were in and out chunks of some, a semester or 2 semesters due to illnesses and things. And they had a really tough time graduating on time, or were not able to.
Yeah.
And straight up missing at least 3 semesters. No.
My only thought as to how this could happen is that they have summer school available for everybody in the class of 1989 because of all the weird disasters and everything. And we know Max was a straight A student before season 4, before Billy died, because the counselor goes over that with her. So maybe they're throwing her a bone there a bit. Maybe she took some like classes outside of high school in order to make up stuff, but there are ways to do that. What I'm now realizing is that I really could have used a small montage like they've done in seasons past of just showing a little bit of like Sam Owens comes through and cleans some stuff up, and here's what happened with a newspaper clipping declaring Jim Hopper alive, or just a bunch of little things like this to help to clear up some of these questions, which I feel like they could have easily done right when Robin is doing her radio talk.
Yes, definitely.
But we don't get that. And so we have a lot of lingering questions. We mentioned this already. Why did Joyce and Hopper never say they know or were friends with Henry Creel? And how does that not make it into this? No idea. Just stupid. No idea. What happens to Dr. K?
War crimes. Straight to jail.
But do we know? No. We don't know. We know nothing.
No, we don't know. She probably just went back to whatever corrupt thing she was doing before this project.
Yeah. The morbid answer to this one is they're all dead. But what happens to all the pregnant women?
They're all dead.
They're all dead. They blew up the lab.
They did.
And Elle's like, yeah, I knew that there were pregnant women in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair to everybody else, only Elle knows this part of the story.
Good on Elle. We know that she's a killer.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yes. I mean, I guess they were all dying anyway, if that gives any tiny bit of...
Yeah, but that was because they were being transfused with blood. All they needed to do was take those out and then get them a different blood transfusion. They should be okay.
I mean, does Elle know that, though? She probably just thinks they're all dying and this is a mercy kill at this point.
One can only hope. Did the Turnboat family survive being drugged by pie? That was a question you brought up in the first.
The Turnbows, yeah. I saw this really hilarious TikTok of Derek prancing back home knowing he's got the house to himself because his family's still in the barn.
I mean, ostensibly. You know, I realized the other day that the word is ostensibly and not ostensibly.
Ostensibly, yeah.
Yeah, well, turns out I'm an idiot. But ostensibly, if Vecna's threatening to kill his parents and sister, they are alive, but like...
And they're at home, probably. But how do they
nothing.
not... Yes. And they didn't... How did they get home? How did they get untied?
They were still tied up in a barn last we saw them.
They know who did this to them, and Erica is not in jail.
There's so much more about, like, how did anybody escape any justice? Yes. But we'll get there. Why is graduation set in the fall? This is just like that, what is it, season 2 finale, I think? Where it's like,
2 or 3,
it should be Christmas time. It's definitely not season 3.
Oh.
It's season 2 because it should be Christmas time. It's 1 month later. It's like December 1st. And it's like brightly spring. And I'm like, is this the one thing that's real about Hawkins? This isn't Vecna's curse. It just has the opposite seasons. It's somehow in the southern hemisphere.
Maybe. That's what the Upside Down did, is it brought the southern hemisphere to Hawkins.
To Hawkins. Lingering side effect.
That's so true, though. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could go along with your summer school idea that they're doing summer school for everybody, and so they are graduating.
That whole class kind of just gets pushed back a couple of, like, a whole semester, maybe. Very possibly. How does Henry have no scar from the gunshot wound that he received as a kid? They shot him in the hand, and I was like, is this memory real? He has no visible scarring.
Science. Magic. I don't know. I think that the real reason is because when he makes no, never mind. I was going to say when he makes the transformation to Vecna, then, he has kind of like healing ability through the vines and whatnot, but he doesn't have it even before. So
yeah, when he's talking to Elle.
He doesn't.
When he's Henry, the nice orderly.
They either A, hadn't decided they were going to shoot him yet, or B, he has great healing abilities.
How does Nancy get away with killing multiple soldiers? Now, there are witnesses, because when Dr. K shows up, she's like, what happened? And then a bunch of people explain. So, like, how does she get away with killing multiple U.S. soldiers? How does anybody get away with anything in the justice system? Again, This is simply explained if Dr. Owens comes in and the whole good side of the U.S. government fixes the bad side of the U.S. government, but they don't show it. So how does that happen, Sierra?
Nope. So you say no witnesses. However, there's no witnesses who would be able to explain without also implicating themselves in what they've been doing.
To Dr. K? Dr. K knows what they've been doing.
I know, but she can't get them in trouble
so
because she would have to reveal what she's been doing.
Right, because we've been doing nothing here. We're all good.
We've just been guarding Hawkins, Indiana. It's fine. There was another crazy accident.
They're going to release a book about how Nancy survives multiple CIA attempts on her life in Boston while she works for the Herald. Oh my gosh. Why are there no Demogorgons or Demodogs helping in the final fight in Dimension X?
See, this one actually made perfect sense to me. They're in the Upside Down. They're not in Dimension X necessarily.
But when Henry goes to Dimension X, when Elle banishes in there, they're crawling all over that Dimension X.
They could have purged them and sent them all down. I mean, I think once they're in the Upside Down, they can't get back up.
They certainly can't fly. We know that. I guess it just seems
because the Demobats only existed to kill Eddie, and then they disappeared. So nothing is around to fly.
Did you hear the demo? Like, so when Steve and Dustin are stabbing above, those are all egg sacs of Demobats. They made the little Demobat noises when they started getting stabbed. And I was like, that's cute, but nothing more than cute.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of things that can't get up into Dimension X, I am 1,000% upset that we did not see Elle jump. She just appears, and I was like, she literally is like, I'm going to make that jump. And you're looking at this cool cinematic floating islands. And then she's just there. And I was like, what? I wanted to see the jumping.
This was probably a budget thing, right? That they spent so much money animating the entire carnal mind flayer that we couldn't get Elle going bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah.
Mario style, hitting question blocks out of the air. Speaking of things that can fit, how does Derek fit through the hole that Max barely got through?
My idea is that the kids wake up before he goes through.
Oh, okay.
That is how it read to me, because it cuts as the kids are going through.
Right, that's true.
And as Henry is transfixed by what he's seeing in the cave. And then the next thing that we see about the kids is that they're ripping all of the tubes out.
That's true.
And waking them all up. And so I think he just woke up.
Didn't. Okay.
Before he had to get there. Because he was last almost in line with Holly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How does Hopper get his chief of police job back after being dead for 3 years?
He's a Nepo baby.
Officer Powell would be so pissed.
Officer who? We don't see him.
Yeah, he's Callahan is mentioned by name. But Powell is not mentioned, I don't think, at all, right?
He gets transferred. His deputy was so horrible that they both got fired. When the military came in and took over, they had no need for a sheriff anymore.
Yeah.
And so the spot was vacant.
Okay, so this one, yes, absolutely. Okay, so this question legitimately makes me almost as angry as Callie. This whole situation, which is, we've had Will, when he's connected to the hive mind, every time a hive mind is in pain, he's also in pain. This is a huge plot point of season 2. How does Will not feel anything in the hive mind when the Scoobies and the Doobies and Elle are all killing Vecna and the Mind Flayer?
He conveniently lost service. His walkie-talkie antenna broke.
It's really upsetting. This is like one of the biggest plot holes in this episode.
Things like this.
Oh my gosh.
What? What did they say? Couldn't possibly piece that together.
Sorry, Vecna, you're breaking up. Sorry, I can't.
I'm going through a tunnel.
I honestly thought he was going to die. I thought this was going to be a big twist, that he's connected in the mind, the hive mind, and that he was just going to, just like everything else. And that everyone's going to be really sad.
Especially because he's not anywhere near the fight.
Yeah.
And I was going, okay, it seems kind of odd to just, like, leave him in a place where you don't know where enemies may or may not be. And you leave him and Joyce, who up until this point, like, has done
Nothing.
a couple of things. She axed a wall, and she figured out a mystery, and she went into scary places. But in terms of actually fighting things, not so much.
Well, that's not true. She fought a lot in Russia when they're going through the whole base.
Yeah, but how much was she fighting?
Right,
and
that's
how
true.
much was
Murray's
Hopper and
Murray's the one with the
Enzo
flamethrower.
and
You're so
Murray
right.
actually doing the fighting? She's just, like, not bait. She's in charge of closing the door. And she half does that,
Fair
and then
point.
half opens it.
She means well.
Yes, she does. She's there for emotional support.
I gotta say, I'm pretty overall disappointed with Joyce's whole storyline in season 5. It's
benched her.
It's akin to what happened in California.
Nice.
For the California Bros. Like, just benched all season. They could not figure out something else for her. She showed so much growth in both season 3 and 4. But they were like, Nancy's the only girl who can figure out mysteries now.
Well, so it also really bothered me with Joyce's character that at the very beginning, basically, this season, the first 4 episodes, she's like, no, I still must protect my baby Will and keep him sheltered from all of the things that are out there. And then episode 5, she's just like, so Will, you're going to go straight into Vecna's mind. We're just going to feed you to him. And you're going to be fine, right? And
really swung that pendulum.
Attitude. Yeah, she just keeps that attitude the entire rest of the season. And I'm going, that seems out of character.
Methinks thou did pendulate too much. Speaking of pendulating people, Dustin went from 0 to 60 to happy to unhappy, and Susie was caught up in the crossfires, ?
My best guess. I think I said it before in our first season 5 episode, where he's just not Dusty Buns anymore. And so I just don't see Susie being able to stick around with him or him putting in enough effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I just don't think that he'd put in the effort to continue to connect with her. Long distance relationships are hard. Her dad is not a fan. There was a lot going against them. And
also,
so
he probably doesn't have Cerebro anymore because the military would have been like, no unauthorized radio equipment outside of the quarantine. But you guys can still have your radio tower.
Yeah. Yeah, but the radio tower is only supposed to reach
Hawkins.
Think that they've got it.
And somehow is way bigger than Cerebro. It's fine. All right, that's fine. I can be down for that. Otherwise, Dustin is cheating on her at the end of the finale, where he's like, "Ooh, this person from season 2 that I wanted to dance with now invited me to a party."
No, I don't think so. I think he probably just also doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have any way to contact her, and she's living such an insular life that maybe they reconnect.
Yeah,
eventually.
What happened to Vicky and Robin?
They broke up.
Are you saying that because of the overbearing partners comment?
Well, it's either that or Robin just really doesn't like her anymore. I mean, there's nobody else who has a partner that we know of.
I think she's speaking to the future where she's saying we will not let our spouses in the future stop us from doing this once every 30 days meetup in a 5-hour drive.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, why say overbearing partners? You could just say, we won't let kids and spouses and whatever get in the way. But the way that she specifically says overbearing partners, I'm like,
Hey, Vicky was actually pretty good for someone that was being lied to 24/7.
Yeah, and then suddenly dragged into this horrifying world.
And then arrested by the military. It's a candy striper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continuity error here. Does the Upside Down have liquid or no? Because when Barb is dragged down into the pool in season 1, there is no water. But water tank for Elle in season 5?
Am I crazy or did they fill it?
Nope. He opens it for the first time and there is water.
Okay.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
No, that's okay. I don't know why. I just had this weird memory of like them pouring something, but I'm crazy apparently.
You are crazy. I'm also crazy because why did the squawk dial change color?
See, that goes into the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes into the conspiracy theories of not everything is okay. Some of these things are actually Vecna's imposed image or in his mind. Things like that. Actually, and if we were getting Dimension X,
if we were getting another season, I would say, wow, all of this is right. What is created by Vecna? What is 8 helping him do with amplified powers? What is he using these 12 children for? But we're not. And so,
nope.
It's just like, it's clearly not a thing.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those really unfortunate continuity errors where, unfortunately, they set a precedent that if something changes color to gray, it means that it's not real, because Holly's looking at the merry-go-round and sees that it should be yellow or blue or whatever it is, but it's gray. And so then they know that they can lift it and go through it to another memory. So,
which doesn't necessarily mean it has to be gray. It just means that Vecna got the color wrong in that particular thing. Right. But it does point to the fact that if the color's wrong, something is happening. And I just, whatever. Also, so if we're going with this whole 11 plan, which we'll actually talk about if you and I believe this or not, but if Elle does survive, and it's because 8 is projecting her, 8 has a giant chest wound from a gunshot that she's bleeding out on in Hawkins' lab. Hawkins' lab is where the C4 charges are. That's the thing that blows up that then the entire Upside Down collapses and sucks everything out. So 11's projection should have vanished right there, right? There should have been no convenient, fading away right when everything gets stormy.
Yes. The only thing that I can think of is, one, they changed part of the plan and hid her somewhere that would not be part of the initial blast, knowing that this was going to be the plan. Or they finally actually touched on that 11 can heal people, and she heals her enough of said gunshot wound that she can make it far enough away.
That I would believe, because she does heal Max.
Yes. So,
but also not enough to save her.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Well, yes,
contrived,
indeed.
If that's true.
So, I mean, it is difficult, yes, because she should be disappearing then, not later.
Right.
There are ways around it. I think it's a missing scene situation.
Certainly. And because it's not shown at all, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Going back to season 1, this is one of the main questions that everybody had, that the Duffer Brothers promised will answer all your questions about Will and the Upside Down. We know the Upside Down is created the day that Elle makes contact with a Demogorgon in Dimension X. So it's frozen to that day. Days later, Joyce puts up Christmas lights. We know, because of season 4 with Holly's little play light thing, that you can still sense new lights in Hawkins and the Upside Down. So the Christmas lights aren't the problem. How does Will see the letters painted on the wall? Because all the physical stuff won't change.
Right.
He just goes A, B, C, D, E, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. Oh, God, there's the R for R. That means U has to be. Like, is he just guessing?
Maybe.
I no is the real answer. The real answer is that they didn't. This is a continuity error that they created themselves, which is just really frustrating.
Yes. Yes.
Why did Vecna need exactly 12 kids for smashing worlds together?
That's how many numbers are on a clock.
Okay, but so here's the big question. Why is the clock even a thing? We never really get an answer on that.
He's just really obsessed with clocks.
Really obsessed with time. But there's no satisfying answer. It just becomes a visual motif. There's no actual reason behind it.
Because they needed them sitting all around that table as if they themselves were a clock.
And he's one. Dear Lord. See, this is why I thought Will was 12, and then we went back and watched season 4, and Dr. Brenna's like 17, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Whatever. Also, why didn't anybody ever try to steal one of the military's sound emitters to use on Vecna?
They either didn't know how to get a hold of them or had no idea how they were going to get him into Dimension X.
Meh.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a good plan.
Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, conspiracy question, then we'll get to the really big question. Conspiracy theory. All the kids, right? The 12 kids are actually still infected at the end and bring the flayed infection with them. And that's why everybody believes that they are in happily ever after, which is a feature of the black thing in A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time makes you think you're living your best life, and in fact, you are not. So do you believe this, yes or no? I
don't.
Yeah, me either.
But I think it's an interesting idea. I don't like the idea of ending on and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
And so that would bother me. Continuing the conspiracy theory, I have seen out there on the interwebs, there's a conspiracy that there's a secret episode 9 that's going to release on January 7th and rewrite the end of episode 8 and explain all of these things and how it really hasn't happened this way and then redo, basically.
I in general like a lot of theories to be put out there. I think it's really fun for everybody to comb through. I think it's really stupid to get bent out of shape when your theory is wrong.
Yeah.
But I like theories. This type of theory is a theory that generates clicks and gets people who are much younger than you and I very excited in a way that I think is cruel.
It's silly, yeah. I saw that and I go, no.
No. And now you have my view, and now you're getting people's likes, and that's all this is for. Yeah. I can't stand it.
No. I think that the conspiracy theory in general is interesting. I don't think it's true, and I don't want it to be true either.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting theory, especially considering how many, as we have just gone through, questions still need answers.
Still remain. So
well, there's a possibility. But I think that this is the end.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry.
It's the same. I think this is the end. The biggest question, of course, is, do you believe Sierra? Because I do not. And of course, I'm referring to Mike. No, I actually do. I actually do believe, and I'll tell you why in a second. But there's this whole conspiracy theory that Max is like, this is just a theory, right? About Max explaining how 11 survives. So do you believe that 11 is alive, yes or no?
I do think she's alive. I don't think that they would have done that whole sequence of Mike seeing the speakers, thinking of the emitters, then piecing it all together, then telling the whole story to everybody else about how she survived. I think that that's completely pointless unless it's true.
Yeah.
If you're going, oh, well, he's just trying to put his friends at ease. They're at ease.
They're already at ease. They're gotten
already
over
at
this.
ease. He's the only one who's not over.
Right.
So there's no point of him making up this story and, quote, piecing all of this together if it's not actually what happened. Now, again, there are plot holes with it, with the whole Callie of it all and the timing and all of those things. But I will say, I did have that question of how is she talking to Mike right now?
Precisely.
With all this stuff going on. She's just standing there. She's completely fine. All the other times we've seen those things going off, she has been freaking out and in pain and rolling on the ground, barely able to move. And she's just standing there staring and it's fine. So I was going, it seems weird. The only thing I can think of is like she was far enough away somehow.
Well, so I was realizing I was talking myself into reasons because that is absolutely live during the 10-minute segment that I watched that day.
Yeah.
I was like, this shouldn't be possible. What is going on? And the one thing that I thought of is that remember that Murray and Hopper move out in front of the truck and then the military vehicles come. And so I thought she maybe bailed out of the truck early. But if you go back, you can see her getting out of the truck and you can see someone while they're all being pressed up against things moving in the background into a place that has a tunnel. Yeah. Although where that tunnel comes from and how they knew it was there, I was like, wait, were we shown that? So I got to go back and do that on a rewatch. But yeah, I think that she's alive. I don't know that she's in the exact place that Mike thinks that she is, and I don't know that anything happened exactly the way that he spelled it out, but I do believe in general, in sweeping strokes, he got it right.
So I think that when we see her and she's hiking and then she finds that town, I think that's actually flashing to her.
Right.
Because if it was Mike's imagination, there would have been 3 waterfalls.
There are technically 3. One's real tiny all the way over on the right.
I don't think it counts.
But in Mike's imagination, it would have been flooding.
It would have been literally 1, 2, 3 waterfalls. Because this is his imagination, his perfect world. When he's thinking of 3 waterfalls, he's thinking of 1, 2, 3 waterfalls.
I totally
And
agree.
so I think that is legitimately her. And what I do like about this is, you know, they have all these things about how Mike has become this storyteller and there's all these stories that he'll write, but there's one that he never will. And he can't divulge it. I do subscribe to the additional, call it a conspiracy, call it a fandom theory, whatever you want, that at some point he has some sort of tour for a book and they find each other again.
That'd be cool. I wondered if she was going to turn up in like a last sequence with Mike, but I was grateful that we didn't get that. I will say this gives Callie a little bit more reason to be there, because up until they're in Vecna's mind and Callie is hiding the children from Vecna and therefore exposing all the children to the fact that Holly is right.
Right.
She has had, you could have done that whole scene, the whole season without her. There wasn't really a point to her. So that gave her a little bit of a point. And then this, obviously, it's like, oh, this is why they brought her back. Which I thought was good, but I'm still frustrated overall with the Callie situation.
Yes. I think bringing her back for a plot convenience is very annoying.
Yeah.
I think that there was a lot more that could have been done with her character. And also, if you're going to bring her back, I think you have her have a larger role.
Yeah. And don't give her such weird direction on the way. Like, I get that she's been, like, blood sucked out of her with these emitters around her and kept in a way, and that she's going to be different than she was earlier. But, boy, everything was just at a perfect little place for people to have all these wild theories about her, especially given her name and the D&D connections and the Shadowfell references and people talking about the Raven Queen, all that sort of stuff. So then there should be, like, this is just the direction given to this actress, which, again, I think the actress does a great job with what she's told to do. But I think the mistake is the way in which the story is crafted. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Speaking of, though, actors who do a lot.
Yeah.
I would like to have a moment for Jamie Campbell Bower.
Yeah, for real.
Because his facial acting.
Yeah, really good.
Is incredible.
I'm really glad that they gave him regular human form acting to do as Vecna, not just as one.
Right. Ugh. Oh, he really pulled it out. All the sequences in the cave, him showing rage and terror and grief and all of these emotions. When he and Will are kind of having their little battle as well, I thought he just has such a way with the control that he has of his face and his expressions and his eyes, and then just the timbre of his voice as well. Very, very wonderful. I think he definitely won in terms of just general acting.
He's so good. He's phenomenal. I felt the same way about Montgomery, Billy's actor. Just in terms of, and Joseph Quinn, obviously, with Eddie. And Jamie Campbell Bower is already a well-established actor, much more so than Montgomery or Quinn. But still, just, I feel like came out of this going, man, do I enjoy his whole deal. I thought he was just perfect. And I was already not, a big fan of Vecna's Grinch design in season 4. And then they went with like Groot's design for Vecna in season 5. And I was just grateful to get some Mr. What's-It regular, like Henry Creel looking stuff so that we could see him act. Cause, oh man, it was great. It was really great. And I felt like gave a lot more emphasis to the Vecna parts, because now I can imagine what this actor would be like.
Right. Yeah, it definitely. And I thought that also on top of everything, with, there's so much information that always comes out and all their behind the scenes footage and whatnot. Getting to see him in studio do the voice changes from Henry to Vecna, amazing.
So good.
And incredible. Because at first, when you first see Vecna, you go, oh yeah, I mean, they can voice modulate that. They can put it through whatever. No, that's just him.
No, it's not. And it's really impressive given like his role in Sweeney Todd, where he's a tenor.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Phenomenal.
His vocal range is Freddie Mercury-esque.
It's absolutely incredible.
And for those of you who are 12, Freddie Mercury was a 4-octave singer in a band called Queen. Speaking of MVPs.
Yes.
Let's, for the final time, for Stranger Things.
Yes.
Man, our first season coming to an end on this episode.
So crazy.
For the final time, let us dust off that card deck and get ready to shuffle. It's our Joker category for who is the MVP of this episode. I had an honorable mention for Mike, just because his putting things together about Elle and his wrap-up is really good for the show. But I think in terms of the storyline, it is Nancy, because she is bait and survives being bait. And that does a huge amount of allowing everybody else to get up to the cliff sides and throw fire at everybody, which I think is the most important bit. But you have somebody else.
I do have somebody else, because I just feel like at that point, Nancy saying, yeah, it's just going to be me, and then stomping off was basically just...
Rambo.
She just... Well, yeah, but also it just doesn't seem like she really has a will to live anymore. She
Oh, really?
She doesn't have a...
That is not how I interpreted that.
See, I interpreted it as just like, well, I might as well just like go for it because I'm awesome, and also like if I die, oh well.
I interpreted that as
vibe to me.
I'm the one with the biggest gun. I'm the one who can handle this. And I'm the most daring out of everybody. And we need to make a decision now. And she's the only one with the nerve to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't win MVP for me. For me, it was difficult to pick somebody. I went with Holly, though. Because Max and Eleven and Callie all disappear. And it is up to her to lead all of the kids and get them in the cave. And she goes back for Derek and doesn't let him get caught, and is ushering everybody and encouraging everybody and telling them when they get in the cave, anything you see in here, it's not real. You just keep moving. Don't watch it. And she is being the shepherd and guiding people, and she is taking on that leadership role, and she gets all of the kids all the way through. She stands up. She has that moment with the fire poker, and she's standing up to Henry, and she's finding her nerve where she didn't have her nerve before. She's coming into her, cleric moment.
All of these are true. And at the same time, the kids are saved because of the fight outside. Yeah. And the tubes get pulled out because of the people outside. So she ultimately, kind of like with Eddie, it's like, yeah, but who does this actually save in the end?
She saves D&D.
Okay, if we're doing epilogue, then Dustin wins for his speech.
I still think if we're just doing epilogue, then Mike would still win.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think it's Nancy's, distraction. Her putting her life on the line allows for everyone to position themselves up on the cliffs without those positionings, and also giving Mike the flare guns, which go very well with Lucas's water balloon gas things that we have no explanation as to what he has, but he has them. All of that, the flamethrower, all of that jazz that Jonathan has, they go up, and without that plan of drawing them into the cave, or not to the cave, to drawing the mind flayer towards the cliffs where everybody can bomb it, Elle doesn't win. The mind flayer doesn't die. The abyss collides, and everybody dies.
Yeah.
And I can't give it to Elle, mainly because it was just boring.
Yeah. Well, but that's why I feel like giving it to somebody for that fight in general, I just can't do it.
So then it's either that or it's the epilogue.
In which case, I think Mike wins.
That's crazy. You're probably
I think Mike
right.
wins.
If we can't settle on somebody for the fight.
He has... Okay, and even if you don't want to do the fight, but you don't necessarily want to do the epilogue, there's him talking to Elle and that whole scene of him, like, not wanting to let her go, but kind of understanding, but not understanding. And then him piecing everything together that happens in that scene. And he had to, like, be paying attention to that situation.
Although I will say, the fact that it took him 18 months to figure out because of speaker feedback, was that the only time a speaker feedback has happened, Mike?
I mean, maybe. How often are you around speakers?
He's in the AV club. He's probably around it all the time.
But bigger, like,
also,
standing
how many times am I around speakers? We do podcasting together.
No, okay, I meant the colloquial you.
I mean, probably a lot.
You're around a lot of microphones. I don't know
the
about
80s
speakers,
didn't have earbuds. So, earbuds. As in the dog? No.
I mean, it didn't have that either.
They didn't have AirPods. The 80s did not have AirPods, so there's a lot more microphone stuff happening all the time, I'm sure. Anyways,
yes,
this is crazy.
There is also a theory. Yes. Because there's also a theory that when Elle is talking to Mike, she somehow makes it so that he won't remember until later.
I hate that.
Enough time will have passed. I don't like that
at all. I hate that so much.
And it doesn't make any sense.
That's like...
But there is a theory.
That's like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when he's like, yeah, I put that tumor in your mother's head. And it's like, oh, you did? Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Mike getting a memory blocker.
No. I think it's Mike.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if that feels great.
Honestly, none of them feel great.
Is it Vecna somehow? No, it's not.
It's just Jamie Campbell Bower.
Jamie Campbell Bower. Oh my gosh. I can't think of anybody else that it should go to. I mean, Dustin has that awesome speech.
Yeah, but again, we almost always give it to somebody with story implications.
Yeah, so and Mike has the biggest story implication, which is where has Elle gone? And he's the one that figures that. All right, it's Mike.
Mike, your first win in the finale of the series.
You're the main character, ostensibly, by the Duffer Brothers. Yep. You and Will. Yeah. Okay.
And it took until the final season for both of them to get a win.
Yeah, for real.
This has always been about Will.
This has always been about Will. And Mike is the main character. He's the leader. He is? He's the heart. What? How? He's the main storyteller. Oh.
See, now we understand. Mm-hmm. Because he did the storytelling thing.
Now we know. I do have an additional question for you, Sierra, as this is our last Stranger Things episode. Until the cartoon comes out, and then I'm sure we'll talk about that as a bit of nostalgia for our first season. But who is the MVP of the whole television show? I shouldn't call it television. It's not on television. Of this show via the Netflix.
That is such a good question. So,
do you want me to throw some options at you?
Well, I was going to say, if we're doing it by MVP wins, then it's Dustin because he's the only one who has won more than one time.
Which I am 100% good to just call it there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we might just have to say Dustin.
It could also be Steve.
Yeah, definitely fan favorite. If you're talking about, things that he has been able to accomplish.
But not the most actionable.
His character.
And Dustin is the one who gives them all of the scientific information that they need to know in order to destroy Dimension X.
Right.
Nancy, however, is the person that action-wise does a lot of that. Especially because Hopper's kind of benched in this last episode. In terms of being the Rambo character. Because they couldn't really have two. So they have caring parent Hopper and then caring parent the light version with Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Nance, you could also say Lucas, but he wasn't as present in these last 4 episodes of season 5.
True.
I mean, he rescues Max, but that clearly is not the main story. It's the side story. And so I think either Dustin or Nancy are the most impactful. Pound for pound, you still could convince me we could give it to Mr. Clark overall, though.
He is always a good pound for pound argument.
He really is. But I think if we're not going to give it to Billy, who I am weirdly tempted to give it to Billy, I think it has to go to Dustin or Steve, and I have a slight edge towards not Dustin or Steve. If we're not giving it to Billy, I think it's either Nancy for the action of the plans or Dustin for the brains of the plans.
I think I would go Dustin.
I think the tiebreaker there being just 2 MVP wins for Dustin is what does it. Is that it? We're gonna call it?
So.
Dustin, congratulations, Dustin Henderson. You have won the MVP of Fandom Schmandom for the first series ever. Well done. And now it's time for a new segment. Statler's and Waldorf's Who's That Muppet? So, to explain a little bit, Sierra and I, when we finish up with a season, whether it be Stranger Things or whatever is next in our future, we will be casting Muppets as if they were redoing this show. Now, mainly I am the driving force on this one, Sierra, because you have, as you say, very little background with Muppets.
Yes, I have very little experience watching Muppets and knowing Muppet things.
So your homework between now and season 2 is to watch more Muppet things so that you know these Muppets. Now, you know them enough to comment on them, and you know enough for me to tell you who they are.
Yes.
So here we go. Mike, controversially, cast as Pepe the King Prawn. Because...
Clearly not season 5, Mike.
No, not season 5, Mike. This is season 1 when Mrs. Wheeler calls down and says, Mike, you were supposed to be done with that hours ago. And he's like, ah! That's Pepe the King Prawn for sure. Will is Robin the Frog, which, if you've ever seen Muppets Christmas Carol, he's Tiny Tim.
Okay.
And I think that is perfect. For those of you who are Muppets lovers, I hate Scooter with a burning passion. So that's why Will isn't Scooter. Okay, moving forward. Dustin is Gonzo, which I think is a perfect cast.
I love it.
No notes. Excellent.
No notes.
And Lucas is Rizzo, which I also think is a perfect cast. Especially hilarious, though, because Sadie Sink stays. And so she has to end up with Rizzo the rat. Now, you're going to find that a lot of female actresses are themselves, because there are
there's not a lot
problematically
of
very little female Muppets. Now, I have Mrs. Wheeler as Miss Piggy, and I'm going to explain that in a second. I do not have Miss Piggy as Winona Ryder. Oh, and I do have Hopper as Kermit, so you might be standing there going, what? But Kermit and Miss Piggy.
Always a couple? Question mark?
Yes, from everything that I've seen. However, and listen, there's a lot to love about Miss Piggy playing Winona Ryder's character, Joyce, which I've just now learned, apparently. In season 1, with her being like, my son! And all of these high action moments. However, I will point you to the end of season 2 for Mrs. Wheeler, when she's in the bath, and Miss Piggy is reading this romance novel, and who rings at her door but Billy? And I'm keeping Montgomery as Billy. So just the hilarity of that scene alone is why I have Miss Piggy as Mrs. Wheeler.
Oh my gosh.
Do you agree? Yes? Hilarity would ensue?
Hilarity would indeed ensue.
Great. Good. Excellent.
Who's Mr. Wheeler?
Mr. Wheeler is himself.
That makes it even better.
Yeah, right? Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so you know Winona Ryder stays. Hopper is Kermit. Jonathan is Fozzie Bear, which I just think is terrible, but also very cringe funny. For Fozzie Bear is cringe funny. Because, you just imagine in season 1, Fozzie Bear's just taking pictures of Nancy.
Yikes.
Which I have Joe Carey, who's Steve, and Natalia Dyer, who's Nancy Stang in their roles. Joe Carey is a Muppet, so he gets to stay. And Natalia Dyer, I think, bringing that seriousness of being the gun-wielding Rambo of season 5 with a bunch of Muppets tickles my gizzard for sure. Pry Ferguson, who's Erica, gets to stay because I feel like all the Muppets would cower around her, and that's funny to me. Vecna is Uncle Deadly, which I'm going to let you Google Uncle Deadly right now. Because you don't know who he is.
No, I do not.
Which nobody does, but he's a wonderful Muppet.
Oh.
And he's sort of this, like, sneer Alan Rickman type.
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Maya Hawke stays as Robin. The Mind Flayer I have as a giant animal. Just, like, not a giant animal. Like, Animal the Muppet. He's just enormous. I'm not just like, changing like the Mind Flayer into, like, any animal that you could think of that's big. It's just a blue whale. No, like, Animal the Muppet.
Got it.
I have Brett Gelman as Murray, staying as himself. I have Mr. Clark as Beaker, which I think is really funny. The idea of me, just during science class, and everyone's like, yeah, I got it. Or the scene where he's explaining the portal and just being like, me, and puncturing the paper with the pencil. It's a great cast, no notes.
That would be really good.
Sean Astin, of course, stays as Bob. Dr. Owens I have is Dr. Bunsen, Beaker's partner, because of course.
Mm-hmm.
I have Officer Powell as Clifford, which is a not as well-known Muppet, but he's in Muppets in Space. I have Officer Callahan as Clueless Morgan, who's the goat in Muppets Treasure Island.
Okay. He's a goat.
He's funny. You should rewatch Muppets Treasure Island. I have Holly as Bean Bunny, which is the caroling little bunny rabbit who gets a wreath thrown at him by Scrooge in A Christmas Carol.
Oh, yes.
I have Dr. Montgomery staying as Billy, as previously mentioned. I have Yuri as Stratler and Enzo as Waldorf, the old men who heckle all the time. I just think it'd be really funny if they showed up only for season 4 as these Russians.
That would be pretty funny.
But they'd constantly make fun of the USSR from like a fourth wall perspective.
I love it.
I have Alec Utkoff, who's Alexi, staying as himself. Joseph Quinn, another Muppet, who plays Eddie, staying as himself. Yes. Chrissy, I have being played by Aunt Sue, who's like related to Miss Piggy. So it's just like a pig that gets vecna'd, which I thought was funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've got Shannon Purser as Barb staying. Although I really thought about casting her as Janice, who's in the Animals band. She's like this total druggy hippie person. And I thought it'd be funny to have her in sheer terror. But whatever. And then I have Derek as Bobo the Bear, who's this buffoon character from Muppets in Space. And there you have it.
I love it.
By the way, all Demogorgons are Sweetums. Come on, Sierra, look up what Sweetums is. You'll know him immediately.
Again. Oh, gosh. The hilarity of the name being Sweetum.
And now, because I've said this on a recording, Sierra will make sure to create a social media post putting all the character of the Muppets up with who they are.
No. That took me so long before when we did casting stuff.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Today's public service announcement. Friends don't lie.
Oh, yes. Oh, of course. Oh, amazing. That's fabulous. Yes. Well done, Sierra. No notes. Chef's kiss.
Thank you.
Mwah.
Thank you. Thank you, dear listener schmisteners, for listening to this episode of Fandom Schmandom. If you'd like to discuss this episode or any other episode we've done, please hit us up on our social media channels. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Fandom Schmandom Pod and on X at Fandom_Schmandom.
Please don't forget to rate and review us if you liked the episode. It really helps the algorithm place us in front of other like-minded schmisteners out there. With that, we're out, y'all.
Don't forget to tip your DMs. They'll make your epilogue sound good.
I will take whatever tip that you'd like to give me, your DM. And fare thee well, y'all.
Here's your tip.
Bye. Thanks all for listening to this season. We've really enjoyed having you along with us. Please give us a like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We want to keep the podcast rolling as much as possible. And we've really, really enjoyed creating this season of Stranger Things, Fandom Schmandom.
Thank you very much. See you next season.
See you next season. Ba 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 ba. All right, bye, y'all.
Fandom Schmandom was created by Sam Williams and Sierra Obermark. The show is produced by Aurelia Lieb. The editor is Brittany Fisher. The music is by Jeremiah Alves.
What is it called? Not a shoot off, an offshoot. No, spin off. There we go.
Enough.
Here we go, Britt. Maybe she took online classes to make it up. There are ways, but it's like what I realized that I could have used is that, you know, at a lot of the end of, what did I say?
He said online classes.
Let me redo that.
I lost my whole train of thought. Hold on. In California, she ended up going.
Sorry, Britt.
Where was I going? Sorry. Lost my...
Oh, no, my sorry was because I just did a giant suck on a straw, and it really is on my audio file.
Well, at least this part's getting cut out anyway. The whole blooper is just...
Oh, yeah, Pepsi's great.
This podcast not sponsored by Pepsi.
This podcast is sponsored by the fact that I can never find the Diet Coke Stream soda mix, and that they only ever have Diet Pepsi available. So I have to have that when I make my sodas at home. I am now looking at the actual episode. So play, I don't know, elevator music.
I don't know. Is that copywritten music? It's in like every elevator everywhere. And so that would bother me. Continuing.
And now it's time for a news segment. No, I'm going to do that bigger. I just don't want to blow out the mic.
Sorry, there's like weird noises. Hold on. I think it's just a cat, but I don't know what they're doing.
Don't get murdered. Don't get eaten. Don't be dead. I don't want to do this with anyone else. Well, I would probably stew. R.I.P. Sierra, moving on to a new partner. Sierra just goes, rude, because she can hear me in her headphones. I'm just kidding. You're my one and only Sierra, except for the fact that I'm married. And you're married too. You're my one and only podcast partner.
Okay, well, I walked out there and a cat immediately approached me and went, meow.
So it's apparently that cat.
So it was that cat. Okay, seriously. I'm sorry. This cat is doing something and it's like right against this wall.
Dear listeners, Sierra's cat is currently transforming into a demo dog. We will have to find live auditions for Sierra's partner. You must first have gone to college with me. Second, have been my best friend for the last... How long have we known each other? 15 years. 16 years almost. Cool. And your name has to be Sierra, and your maiden name has to be Powell. Yeah, it's going to be real tough. Hi. Chonk monster. You're like the size of Dart.
She is the chonk.
LeChonk. LeChonk, we are so close to being done. Just let your mother podcast.
No. Do not come farther into the room, please.
Do not into this dark night. Hello, Chonk.
This is the smaller image.
Hi, smaller Chonk. I banish thee, smaller Chonk, to the hells of the pits.
The smaller one is waiting for me to go to bed because she sleeps on top of me.
Excellent.
Just have that voiceover. Just the clapping. Amazing. Fabulous.
Just incredible. I don't know why I went French suddenly.
I don't know.